So thank you for kind invitation. So most of the time he already introduced me. I just don't want to just talk more about me, but just talk about the stuff we are going to have right now. So my specialty, I'm for like almost 10 years that I'm always working on teachers. On my career, I just try to create a path on teachers' professional development and how we can improve it. And my research, there are a couple of lines of research I'm focusing on. The first one is how we can improve teacher profession development, and also how we can just put more emphasis on instruction, quality teaching. So so now I have 3 articles. I'm gonna kind of summarize them and just get your input on them so that you can just tell me what you think and what you get, and you're gonna see some activities on the screen as well. So let's just get going. And hocam already introduced me, so I don't want to just go over the details, but let's look at what I have. So we're going to talk about profession development because I'm going to repeat this phrase like maybe more than 1,000 times. So let's just create an acronym for it. It's PD. So when I say PD, that means profession development. So we have learning communities, effective instruction, and the most important part is we are going to look at how all tied together based on my research. So today I'm going to give you a little information about these 3 publications. The most recent one is this one, Augmenting Teachers PD Experiences, and the other one is, the first one is published in 2017, is Professional Learning as a Predictor for Instruction Quality. And these are empirical studies, and I use structural equation modeling, so purely quantitative studies. And this one, effect of professional learning communities on teachers and students, this is a literature review of PLC. So another acronym during this presentation will be PLC, which stands for professional learning communities. So let's see if we have new people, just in case. I'm just copying and pasting the link.
If someone comes, I can just copy, paste it, and put a note in chat, so you can continue.
That might be really handy. Thank you. So let's start. So when you see this white background vocab image, so that means we're going to have an exercise. It's not really exercise. It's just something that, put your input in. So let me just ask, have you ever read any of these articles before? We have 3 of them, just in case. I know students taking hocam's course, like they know they're supposed to read, but just in case, let's just see trends. I'm just trying to, so this is like for me, not really for you. This is I'm just trying to see who read, so that I can just pace myself. Sometimes I give lots of information, sometimes I say, oh, stop, because they already know that. Okay, so it's like 50-50. So we have 15 people in the VOOC lab, but not all of us has just responded yet. Let me just wait. So this is the first activity, and you can just familiarize yourself to VOOC labs mechanics as well. Let's just wait 20 seconds more. I just want to make sure everyone can just respond to the question. But if you have any issue, please just put your issue on the chat box, so that hocam or I can just address it. Okay, so it's like 7 of us just read the article. That's perfect. Thank you very much. Let's just start from you. So how do you define professional development for teachers, PD for teachers? Even though you might be from outside of education field, but that's totally fine. Just tell me. So you're gonna see a box, an empty box, to respond this question. Just free opinion, and usernames and anything not recorded, so feel free. So how do you define professional development for teachers then? Can everyone see this box? I just want to make sure everyone. Okay, so we are getting some. Okay, perfect. Let me get the results list. So we have one, and you can also, if you double click any box over here, you can like the answer, the response. Technological content and pedagogical skills. So this is kind of content for PD, yes. Self-directed learning, definitely yes. And for online PDs, it is one of the pillars. Any activity that is designed to improve teacher practice, definitely. This is one thing I focused on. So this is like a theme of my presentation today. Improving teacher skills, knowledge to become more competent, definitely yes. And also guides to their students. So that's a kind of summary of all three articles. Thank you very much. Training helps teachers to get guidance on optimal solutions for teaching. That's another great response. Designing CL is what is CL? If you just leave it the chat box. I'm not really familiar with the concept. Or continuous learning maybe. Content creation, that's another thing. Refreshing their knowledge, perfect, that's another thing. Self-directed learning. So today I don't have any motivation component, but so for last 2 years I am still trying to learn more about motivation so that I can just inject into our PD. Oh, classroom environment. Okay, thank you. So thank you very much for your answer. So all the responses are correct, and I am feeling that okay, we are in the right direction for my presentation right now. So another thing, so how do you define professional learning communities? So PS, this doesn't have to be like formal definition. You don't need to Google. Just what you think. You might not have read the articles. That's fine. But how do you define? How do you feel when you hear like professional learning communities PLC? I haven't seen any responses. I just want to make sure that everybody is connected. Sometimes WooC Lab is like giving some problems. Okay, I have 4 responses. Perfect. Let's look at them very quick. The group of people with similar purposes, which are related to PD. That's really so similar purposes. So we say it's a shared or common purpose. Group of teachers helping each other formally and informally. Oh, there are 2 ways. Perfect. With the administrator, with the principal. That's another layer. Thank you. Encouraging each other to learn and produce. So it's a group, like encouraging them. That's another good definition. Continuous meetings and evaluation to improve themselves as a teacher collaborator. So meeting. So then community needs a meeting. So that's another thing. And they evaluate. They evaluate themselves maybe or their teaching practices. A community or forum for teachers to get together and discuss their problems. That's totally fine. And these problems will be regarding teaching. That's another thing. So this is not like their career choices or other kind of problems. So this is like problems, issues regarding teaching. As the name implies, a group of professionals come together with the same professional purpose. Good definition. This is a kind of definition from a textbook. Community is sharing professional experience and practices. That's a parallel to the one of the previous answers as well. And the last one is group of professionals help each other further develop. So as you see, like a very quick thematic analysis. So there's a purpose. They are coming together. So there are teachers, like different stakeholders, principals. So there is a kind of experience, whether it be practice, teaching stuff. So I think you already created a kind of a model, a conceptual model, which is really great. So we have a good understanding of PLC. That's another thing. Perfect. Thank you very much for your participation. And one last thing, I promise, this is the last one with this kind of question. So how do you define effective teaching instruction? This can be from any level, like K-12 or pre-K or higher education, whatever your experience is, that will be fine. How do you define it? So we have one response over here. Why I can't click this? Interesting. I cannot reveal the answer for some reason. Let me try another way. Let's just wait a little bit and everybody has a chance to put their response in, and then I can just refresh the page. It was supposed to show over here so that I click and reveal, but it doesn't working. It doesn't work in okay, let me just go back and next. Oh, again. I don't know what happened. Let me just go back. I couldn't see your responses. I don't know why.
We can see, yeah, we can see here.
Yeah, over here, I think there's a message part. Okay, let's see. So help students facilitate learning. Facilitation is the key. Thank you. Long-term learning. We can also say this is a kind of transfer. That's another thing. Guiding students. So it's a kind of facilitation, guiding to the through their learning journey. That's a great definition. Achieve most of the goals of education. So like objectives, like different kinds of goals. Okay. Purposefully selected activities that result in student learning. So that's critical. That's one thing I will mention when I talk about visible learning. So we have effective learning by students, teacher PD, research skills. So if we, okay, this is like effective instruction. So the kind of pieces, components maybe. Effective teaching when the teacher can observe the change. Indeed, that's a good definition. So teaching is different and effective teaching is a little bit different. So when you observe there's a kind of change, increase in student achievements, then you can say it is effective. Yeah. So this is a kind of theory-based definition. Thank you. So collaborative and authentic, that's a good piece. Motivating students to participate classroom activities. So this is a kind of a little bit classroom management, but of course it's also included in effective teaching. You're going to see in my first article. So we have a good understanding also effective teaching. So you're going to see that in my first two articles, we try to define effective teaching. So there are several ways to define it. So there's not one way. So that's why I just want to, get your idea on that. So we have different, as you will see in my articles. So in my articles, we have different definitions. So that doesn't hurt, but this is really good. It's a really good feeling that you are focused on comprehensive definition of teaching and learning. Okay, let's just get going. But thank you very much for your input. And you're going to see there are lots of cross-laws and there are lots of overlaps with your inputs and my articles. So there are three articles, as I said. Let's start with the first one. This was published in 2017. So in this article, we focus on professional learning. But in a broader sense, most of the time, this is a little bit overlooked. So we are looking from a big umbrella. So we are going to talk about instruction quality. So this is theory-based approach, and we use latent variable to define it. So we use secondary analysis, we use secondary data. You already know OECD TALIS. So this is a data from Turkey, 2008. So I think this is the first published article, empirical article in English using this kind of data from Turkey. So let's just look at what argument I'm making. We are, as a researcher, are making here. So the more teachers participate in all professional learning activities, our expectation is they start using more innovative strategy in their classroom. So you already mentioned about that. We remember like PD. There's a relationship between PD and instruction. But what previous studies said to us, like let's look at that. So most of the time they focus on just one specific particular PD activity or program or event, not just like a holistic approach, and they're examining its effect on instruction. So there's a kind of connection, but we need another evidence. We just need to take into account all the things. So just try to just consider teachers' role in the school. They are not just learning by attending PD, they are also learning at school, at the workplace, or any other, like they are watching a video and they are learning. there are lots of online materials. So what we need is, instead of focusing on just one activity and effect of one activity, our argument is we need to look at a more holistic approach, so that we can just get the complete picture of teachers' experiences. So TALIS data provides lots of opportunities for that. So when you focus on just one PD experience, it's a kind of segmented component. So you look at one PD and general practices. So there's a misalignment. So this is important in the research. So when you do that, you can overestimate or underestimate. So we have numbers, as you know, lots of researchers. So this is one of the flaws in the research. So they are overestimating the effect, and we are also just discussing those articles. But this really make the theory base very weak, but we just need to focus on more holistic approach. But this is a challenge, of course. So comprehensive analysis of all teachers' experiences is hard, and we need lots of funding, like people, and this is a little bit requires administration points. So it's a little bit complex, but because of the TALIS data we have, this is a little bit manageable. So our study, we try to understand the true effect of all professional learning on instruction, and we are just trying to look at how these affect teachers' use of instructional strategies. So mainly we have 4 variables. So the first one is PLCs, as we defined just a couple of minutes ago. So this is like a learning at the workplace. So PLCs are defined differently. I'm going to show you in a minute, but most of the time when I say PLC in this context, it is teachers at the school. They are forming PLCs, communities together. Sometimes it's organic or inorganic by administrator. So also days are important. So sometimes when you ask teacher how many days did you attend any PD, most of the time we say 100 days. So duration, time, and amount is really important to kind of predict its effect on instruction quality. And type also important thing. As you know, in your responses, you have workshop, I think seminars and activities. But these activities can be categorized into 3. So traditional, reform, and informal. Traditional ones are like conferences or just watching a video. You just passively sit and get. So it's a kind of sit and get kind of one-shot training. And there are reform type of PD activities. These are like more like coaching or mentoring. So there's a mentor just helping you implement effective teaching practice in your classroom. And also there are informal ones like dialogue, teachers dialogue. They are learning from each other, which is also reflected in one of your reflections. So reading, so teacher also can just buy a book, they read, they try to incorporate a couple of practices in their classroom. So that's another thing. So we need to account for all the 3 pieces, because there are lots of ways to learn for teachers. And so let's look at how we define instruction quality. So TALIS has variables that we can just construct a unifying dimension. So this includes behaviors, cognitives, and constructives, 3 well-known learning theories. So as you know, teachers not always just use behavioristic approach. They are not always lecturing, right? They are group work. Sometimes they let kids work alone, independently. They just let kids build their own knowledge from previous knowledge. So there's a kind of variety in instruction quality. So TALIS provides us a measure that we can just take all 3 in the same container, which is really helpful. Our data coming from Turkey, as I said before. So there were more than 3,000 teachers. This is like demographics table from the article. The good thing about this data is we can generalize this result to population in Turkey. So because this is a representative sample of teachers, there are lots of quantitative stuff from the background of TALIS data, but we can add sample weights and other kind of numbers so that we can just generalize our findings. So this is in Turkey. So this is like a middle school. So 5 6th, 7th, and 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So we can generalize findings to those teachers. You are seeing all the numbers over here. So let's look at the conceptual model. So I gave you the variables over here, but now let's look at, how are just connect together. So the ones in orange over here, so the arrows represent an effect. So there's an effect over from here to instruction quality. As I said, behavioristic, cognitive, and constructive approach are over here. If you are familiar with SEM, structural equation modeling, so these three are coming together to create one unifying variable, and we name it, Talis name it instruction quality. So what we do, like when we create an SEM model here, we look at the relationship and association between the variables. So you're gonna see, so these arrows in green represent some kind of coefficient. So we are gonna take a look at that. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 effect on instruction quality. So before I just reveal the results, if you already read the articles, you know that, but I just need your opinion on that. So what do you think the effect will be each of these to instruction quality? So I'm gonna have another exercise right now. So let me just show it to you. So all the variables are on the left over here. And there are, this is just from the article, there are numbers and also not statistically significant stuff over here. So now what you're gonna do is just match. Just based on your understanding, or if you remember the numbers, you can just match. So in the vocab, you're gonna see drop down menu. So when you see PLC, just click drop down and select which one you think is the best. There are 2 numbers. So just among 5 of them, 2 of them are just statistically significant. So okay. We have 2 results. So when we hit 5, I'm going to reveal the tendency here. This is not a quiz, so just feel free. You don't need to go back to article and just take a look. So we hit 5. Let's see most frequent answers over here. So traditional PD, not statistically significant. This is the 8 times mentioned in your answers. PD days, not statistically significant. Informal PD as well. And some of them, four of us just report like, okay, PLC is not statistically significant. That's another thing. There are numbers associated with other stuff. Okay, let me see. Okay, we have 15 seconds left, and a couple of people who have not answered yet. As you know, being not statistically significant is not a curse, but we are going to talk about it later. Okay, thank you for joining. So let's see the correct answers first. So you're going to see in the illustration, but only 2 variables were statistically significant, which are PLCs over here, and also reformed PD over here. The others not statistically significant. So there was not any effect from those to instruction quality. So dashed lines represent not statistically significant effects. As you see, PLCs are over here and the numbers just on it. And we created a PLC dimension just using these variables. So PLCs, that's why it's a kind of oval shape. So we created that PLC latent variable using other variables, but this is not related to our model over here effect. So this does not really relate to that. So as we look at that, so there are a couple of things that we can infer and we can discuss. But first of all, I want to say, so when you use SEM, so you need to test lots of models. But the good practice from my experience, so most of the time my publications, I use SEM or other advanced statistical methods. So for like 10 years, so reviewers always look at models, but you just don't need to just say, okay, we run a couple of models. You also need to say, just show your results. So that's why we have 5 models over here. So the 5th model here is the one I showed. So, but we test a couple of different models. Let me tell you why. So if you look at that, I also named, and there's a title for each model. So literature say different things about these models. So we have PLC only model, PD only model, and PD types only model. So we just try to understand how about their sole effect, just independent effect on instruction. So then the last one is the altogether. So that's the best model. If you look at the numbers, that's the best model fit. We just get it. So our goal is just to kind of, you know, make inference from this model, but we also reported other 4 model for scientific sake. So because we know that there's a theory behind it, this is just not numbers, or we are just trying to get good results. So let's try to kind of discuss. So there are lots of discussion in the papers. I'm not gonna kind of repeat myself here, so you can just take a look. But there are a couple of points I wanna just bring to this table. So there's a relative effect. So if you look at that, if you can just compare, because these are standardized regression coefficient, you can compare their value. So PLC have relatively higher effect, which is really important, because schools are a learning organization, and if teachers work in a kind of environment which is like reflective, collaborative, as you said, as you remember in the first, so they just share. There's a shared vision, and you also say it's a common purpose. So they have a common purpose, they are collaborating, they are reflecting each other, and this definitely leads to student learning, and we can just improve our instruction quality. So this is really important, so creating a community in the school. But how we can do that? So we just need to create structured opportunities. So you can just say, okay, analyze your student work, for example, or observe your teacher's classroom, or just share your teaching materials, and they come together, meet, like, just regularly meet and talk, discuss, a couple of stuff you are having in the classroom. Maybe it might be your problems regarding teaching, as you said. It might be anything regarding like innovative approach you just don't like, STEM or like online teaching method, but just come together and talk about that. This is not kind of criticizing and evaluative discussion. This is more like a sharing with a safe environment. So if you look at how Tallis defined PLC, we also see that type is not effective. So I think PLC might be a reform type, but this kind of PLC is school-based PLC. So there are not teachers from other part of the country or from other schools. So like, for example, so mathematics teachers in a department, they are like, in Turkish it is zümre toplantısı. So they are coming together. So that's the PLC we are defining. The second critical point is, so we also kind of compare the effect of PD types. So because you cannot, so this one activity includes most of components, but if you look at the numbers, even though 2 of them were not statistically significant, reform PD is higher effect. So this provides some kind of clue. So let's look at what reform-based PD is first. So if like you observe other teachers from other schools, so that's a reform-based practice. If you have teacher network, it can be online or on social media, it's really effective. If you have mentor or coach, or if you are doing like some kind of collaborative research, like an action research or practitioner inquiry, these are reform-based practices. So why this is effective then? So because teachers like have a kind of very neat and very engaged in their own practices. So this is the best way, the literature say. So when they talk about their practice, then they try to kind of increase their practice and explore their subject matter. So that's the best way to learn. So they are learning, and they are using their learning in their classroom. So that's why I think reform-based practices influence instruction quality. But of course, we have some limitations. So these variables, we did not send an administrator survey or something. Tallis has that data, so you can use anytime. But we are a little bit limited to that data. For example, for PD type, we only have just one variable. For PD day, we have just one variable. I wish we could have more variables so that we can have a more robust conceptual model, but this is one of the limitations we have. And also the same thing for instruction quality. We can also add another PD features to explain instruction quality. So of course, professional development is important, but motivation is another piece. But for this iteration of Talis, we didn't have any motivational component to kind of regress on instruction quality. And we use a couple of single items, as I told before, like PD type. So the question is, have you ever attended any coaching session? Yes or no? It is not like intensity, it is not liquor type. So that's why this also might, you know, provide some kind of threat to reliability. That's another thing. As we kind of, you know, make inferences from this result, we just need to keep in mind that there are limitations. So there's another VooClap activity. So it's been like 20-ish minutes for me to talking about that stuff. So what is your takeaway? What are the things that you learn? What are the things that this article, like, you know, make you think about something, or how you connect your own ideas? That's another thing. Can you just, you know, let me know your takeaways from this this article and research? There are 0 people here. Are you all connected to VooClap? Just want to make sure. If anyone can just, you know, put something on the chat. Okay, it's coming. VooClap is acting very weird today. Why? Okay, let's take a look. Learning communities are important for PD of teacher, definitely. So when we say PD of teachers, that refers to activity, but the best way to say is professional learning. So because this is more generic, it's important to facilitate formation of PS. Definitely, this is one thing missing in our schools. We need to create structures, mechanisms, ways to facilitate formation. Definitely, I really like it. How learning communities help professional developments. Yeah, that's a good thing as well. PLCs have more impact on quality of instruction rather than reform PD. And that's another thing. So, for example, teachers attend lots of conferences like webinars. Are they effective? Not effective than PLCs. I'm working TPD, blended learning, permanent discussion. Thank you very much. So, yeah, these are not blended and online learning. So, I'm also working on a blended professional development. So, I'm it's not in baby steps, but I'm also working a similar study on online learning. But the person who just, you know, posted this one, you can just contact me and maybe there's an opportunity for collaborate. The importance of PLC is now much more clear. Definitely, right. So you're going to see I have more evidence on that. There are different ways for teachers to come together and they work in the school. So, and my argument most of the time, this is not scientific, this is not based on research, but my experience is, so if we create community inside school and we have like facilitators, teachers don't need to attend any other PD outside the school. School is enough for teachers. So if we create best opportunities. Okay, now let's jump into the second article. So I have like 20-ish minutes, like, right, Olgun Hocam? Like 20, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can add a little bit more time if you want.
Okay. Maybe 5 or 10 minutes. We can just,
we should be perfectly fine.
Okay, go beyond. Okay, perfect. So this is a similar article. Again, Talis data, but it is an updated data. Because in this iteration of Talis, we had more variables. So you're going to see. So again, profession developed in a broader sense, like all the profession activities teacher attended. Again, profession community at school, but we define it a little bit differently. Again, we have effective instruction. It's a theory-based effective instruction, but this is United States population. So our argument is similar. So most of the time researchers tightly focus on just one single activity. And of course you can focus on that. And for example, if you just have teachers learn STEM and then you observe if they apply, implement STEM practices, this is a good alignment. But most of the time we put bunch of information in PD events and we measure other things. So this is a misalignment. So this is the thing I'm talking about. But if you have perfectly aligned PD and instruction, that's okay. This is not my argument. So if you look at the PD effectiveness study, so they work on the direct effect. Direct effect means, if you remember the image I showed, so PD to instruction, one arrow is a direct effect. So there are a plethora of evidence on that. So some studies taking a comprehensive approach as we did before, but not so much because the data collection is a little bit challenging. And there are also some research on PLCs on instruction, which is also direct effect. So we know of that, we have that evidence. So, but we need to look at full portfolio of experience as we did before, the same argument we are making here. And another thing is, so professional community most of the time are not considered, are not taken into account with PD. So you don't see lots of research doing that, PLC and PD. So PLC most of the time is like another PD, but the definition, the conceptually, we are not kind of conceptually distinguish these two together. So that's another thing we need. So, but why is important? So I think this is one of your comments, one of your takeaways from the previous article. So teachers' professional learning is best situated inside the school. But that's why this is important. We need to take into account all two together. But of course, this is a challenge, as I said. It's very hard to measure at the same time. So you just need to focus on. This is for like cost effectiveness purposes. I know. So, but because we have TELUS rich data, why don't we use it, right? So we are just trying to explore very similar study, but with different variables. So here we define school-based professional communities, but with different variables. So we have collaboration, team conferences, which are just referred to Zümre toplantıları in Turkish. Working with others, exchanging materials, joint activities like, for example, collaborative lesson planning, or observing the teachers and giving feedback to practices. So that's how we conceptually define school-based professional communities. After we published that article, when I just dig more into the literature, I say, okay, indeed, this is school-based communities because this is a term we used in PLC literature. So PLC is a little bit different. So that's why I put SBPC to my paper. And the second one is PD quality. So if you remember in the previous one, we had PD days, just one item, and which is really not really best in terms of reliability. So we were lucky that TELUS have lots of effective features of PD quality. So these are like content, like which content are you attending? Like for example, you are a math teacher, are you attending very different like project management training? So this is like misalignment. So is there any active learning experiences in the PD you attended, or you just listen? Like collaboration, are you collaborating with other teachers to do something? Is there kind of discussion opportunities? So time span is an important thing. Time span means a PD event starts in one point and it takes lots of time to complete it. It is not just a couple of days, and there are lots of literature on that. So the question is, so how long the activity is spread out? So most of the time we need at least 3 weeks or 4 weeks so that a change happens. Collective participation is you are attending a PD if it is right for you, right for your department, right for your school, or it is just something you're attending. So it needs to be relevant to your teacher's practice. So as you see, we have better variables, items to conceptually define these two. But for effective instruction, unfortunately, we don't. So that's why I use some meta-analysis like Hades, Visible Learning, Marzanos, and Knights frameworks to kind of create my own instruction variable. So Talis is a little bit unfortunate for that. So in the 5 years ago, they have a very robust framework for quality instruction. But after 5 years, there is nothing. There is just a couple of items. So, but in the 2013 iteration, we have great variables for PD, quality, and communities. So the last 2 iterations are not really great. The recent one, 2018, there are similar variables also, but I haven't researched any variable on the latest list. So we also have contextual factors in this research, different than the other one, like classroom setting. So teachers teaching in the classroom, right? But we need to know what kind of classroom it is. Like it might be anything, right? You're going to see the variables just in a minute. And also a couple of teacher characteristics like their gender and experience as well. Okay, let's look at the sample. This is also a representative sample of US. It is lower secondary school. We have less data over here. It is like 1,500, more than 1,000, but not like the other one, like more than 3,000. This is a representative sample of United States. This is the argument Talis is making, and we used all the requirements, all the variables to our analysis, so that we can argue that okay, this is our argument, our inferences are representative of US lower secondary teachers. Let's look at the conceptual model. So as you remember, the previous one, instruction was over here and all variables in the left. So we add mediation model over here. So because literature say schools as a community are really effective mediating that effect. So let's look at that. So A is the direct effect of PD to instruction, which is we already examined in the previous literature, but with different variables. So B is the effect of communities on instruction, and C is how PD help form proficient communities. And another thing, the unique contribution of this study is C multiplied by B. So how PD is effective, but through proficient communities. So it's like teachers attend a PD event and they go to their school in a community, they talk, they share, and then in a classroom they implement. So, but how about the effect? So the good thing is we have control variables, as I said before, like classroom environment, because classroom environment provide lots of variance to this kind of study. So that's why we have like contextual variables to control the effect of them on instruction. So I'm going to have another activity. I'm going to ask you match the effect coefficients again. So on VooClap, okay, you're here. Okay, perfect. So there are 4 of the arrows I represent here. So PD to instruction, PD to communities, communities to instruction, PD, communities, and instruction. So would you please just match their effect size based on your knowledge and experience? As I said, you don't need to be just correct on all. We are getting some answers. We hit 5. Let's look at most frequent ones. PD to instruction, 0.08, and PD PC instruction is 0.5. This is the largest number here, and most of you, so this is mediating effect of PD on instruction, and PD to PC is this amount. Okay, let's see. We are halfway through. We need more people. Then I will just reveal the correct answer. PD to communities. So this one is, so this is, I published this, I worked on this study around 2017. At that time, you know, before just I run the analysis, my expectation was like this one. So the effect of PD on instruction is the highest, but indeed it is not. Let me show you. So if you look at that, all the variables, PD to instruction is the lowest one, as you see. And the biggest one is PD to PC. The mediating effect, if you see here, it is 0.15. And let's just see the visual. I just crop the image, so that's why it looks a little weird. Sorry for that. But you already saw the, you know, the good one. So that effect from indirect effect, as we call, or mediating effect, is 0.15. And let's just discuss why and what we can just, you know, get from these results. So if you look at this table, this is just the kind of table version of the graphic, but one important thing is here. So there's a total effect. So total effect means, so PD affects instruction through this way and also that way. So there are two ways that PD affects instruction, so which we call it total effect. So if you look at the total effect, it is 0.23. But if you look at the effect of PC communities on instruction, it is bigger, it is larger. This is greater, because so when you think about PD, so you think, okay, teachers just attend PD and they learn, right, and they come to school. But even though they just, you know, share with their colleagues, professional communities alone is better predictor of instruction quality. As you see, there's a parallel between the first study and the second study. The effect is bigger, the professional community's effect is bigger than total effect of PD. So, but let's just critically analyze that. So what we have, so if you add more effective features like collaboration, problem solving, discussion, relevant content, that means teacher will use those practices, incorporate those practices in their classroom. In my case, we have 5 practices: summary, implementing small group activities, problem-based practices, project activities, and also feedback. So these are effective practices of teaching. So PD is not just PD. So, but you need to look at, there are 5 features of professional development that you attend, so that you will change your instruction, right? You will update yourself. Another thing is, so we believe communities provide some opportunities for teachers to self-growth, because it's a regular day. You are working at an institution, at a school, and you are just over there, and you know your stuff. You have your expertise, and you interact with other teachers. You just exchange what you know, right, with your colleagues. So that's why we learn. So I think the results of this study just really puts more light on the big role of school. So we just need to focus on schools, not just, you know, other PD events for our schools. So let's talk about this indirect effect. As you remember, it's PD's effect on instruction through professional community. So it is greater than PD itself. So this shows us, so we call it spillover effect. So this is a kind of term from educational economy, but it is a kind of effect going beyond and above the direct effect. So when teachers just, you know, learn from others' experience they gain from PD, they talk, they don't need to participate. So somebody will bring relevant information to their school and they learn from it. And that's a good thing, right? So for example, for private schools, for cost-effective purposes, they just send a couple of teachers to, you know, expensive trainings, like to overseas, and they come to school and they share. So that's spillover effect. So why don't we use it, right? School context is important. So that's the best thing we can get, because teachers create dialogue. They focus on student achievement. They are not like talk about their personal issues or their career stuff. So that kind of, knowledge, professional learning always translate into instruction. And we just need to create a base for it. So for example, we just need to create collaborative communities inside school, and those need to be sustainable, right? So it is not just like regular meetings. We just talk about random agenda items, right? But you just need to focus on student learning, how we can just improve student learning. So you just need to solve problems in those meetings. So that's why we need to create communities inside the school. Of course, we have limitations. So I did not put the same limitations over here. So these are two new ones. Of course, are valid also for the first study. So we use self-reports. So most of the time, self-reports comes with like a little bit reliability issues. Like sometimes people say, okay, I attended. It's not lying, but it is sometimes they think they attend or they think they use. For example, like problem-based practices. They are not using problem-based practices, but they thought, oh, okay, I am using it. So these are a little bit problematic. So to solve it, we have self-administered logs or video recordings or online journals. So there are lots of tools to kind of remedy this limitation. And single item measure is another thing that we have here, but we cannot sometimes just, handle that because this data is over here, public data, and you can use it. So far what we have, and I'm just connected to PLC literature, and I just need 12 minutes. By the way, if you have any questions, you can just leave to chat box so that, you don't need to just miss anything in your mind. So direct effect of PD and learning communities, there's an effect. So there is a valid, robust effect, even though they are a little lower. But we also need some PD features for effective PD, like collaboration, active learning. Webinars are not really effective if you want to change your instruction. For awareness, that's fine. For self-knowledge, that's fine, but not for pedagogy, your pedagogy. And learning communities at school are important, but it is not just a PD model. It is a community school. Teacher leadership researchers, they say this is like an organizational community. They have different names. Community of practice is another name they use. And this is a little bit kind of organizational psychology term, but that's another thing. Next, I have a couple of slides, and then we can just tie all together. So we talk about communities as an entity for school, but now let's just shift our attention to another community. So this kind of community is researchers or professional development facilitators, providers create that community, a group, and they are sustainable group. They meet regularly, they share their practices. So let's look at how those kind of communities are effective. So apart from the first two studies, and let's look at the features of that, and let's look at also the research design. So this is a literature review, and Vessia et al. In 2008. So they published very popular literature review on PLCs, and our manuscript is like a kind of updated review on that. So that's why in the title we have reporting updated results. And the third author in this article is Ellison Adams, which is the second author in the study. So we just try to update those studies. So I don't want to just go into detail. You can take a look at the manuscript, but we have more than 100 articles, and we have 3 filters to kind of filter out the best articles that fit to our definition, and we have 13 studies for that. But firstly, before starting a lit review, the best thing is I have 2 published lit reviews, and this is the thing I learned. You need to have a working definition. So our working definition is over here. And as you remember, I asked you to define professional learning community. There are similarities you are going to see. Group of professionals working collaboratively toward a shared purpose to improve their instruction. And there's also professional dialogue at the end, as you see. So it's a kind of conversation. It's a relevant conversation regarding teaching and learning. So let's look at, it's a long article, and there are lots of things to process. There are lots of tables. So if you don't want to read, so here's the summary. So if teachers participate in any PLC, so it results in improved teacher practice, which is great. So teacher use new methods, new assessment practices, which is what we were looking for in the first two articles. The second one is if they participate, their student achievement also increased. So the subjects are reading, language, history, chemistry, and technology. And other than their achievement, there are non-academic learning like engagement, interaction, awareness. So then teachers make a change, right? They are making a change in students' lives if they attend PLC. But conceptualizing PLC is a little bit challenging, and you might have realized in my question when I say you define PLC, so it's hard. But there are a couple of features we can just say. But most of the time, PLCs are confused with other similar structures like lesson study, instruction rounds, and learning walks, and also sometimes community of inquiry, community of practice. So there are lots of terms around. And there's another one, critical teachers group. That's another term people use. So most of the time, people add a couple of features and rebrand their own model. So that's why conceptualizing PLC is hard. So we also look at the studies, why teachers improve their practice, why student learning achievement just increased. So there are a couple of reasons. So the first one is facilitation. You remember somebody had that, right? So if you facilitate teachers learning, you have positive results, and dialogue with teachers. It's a kind of, constructive dialogue, not just like, you say something, I say something. And active learning, collaboration, and communal feelings. This is hard to establish. So it will like develop over time. So you just need to, for community feeling, it's hard, right? So if you just, come to point that you have like a community, then positive results will be abundant. There are lots of flaws in the articles we reviewed in terms of research design. So sometimes data sources are not reported well. Research design rationale, we did not see it. Limitations, previous state of the sample. Some of the articles we realized that teachers already attended a kind of PD and they attended PLC. But this is another effect. So and very, very, very harmful effect for teachers. So some of them just don't mention about their assumption of statistical analysis, and we found little information regarding trustworthiness, credibility, and stuff like that. And researchers' positionality in qualitative stuff also just important. Let me show you a model. So you're gonna see this model. So reviewing like literature, like you analyze your subject matter, right? So but I really found this valuable. So after analyze, I just try to create something from the studies. So because I like SEM kind of relational model, so I create this. So from these research studies, so I found 5 features of PLC, like facilitation, collaboration, active learning, purposeful focus on instruction and students, and reflective dialogue. And sometimes they, there's a path, like future-wise, there's a path to student achievement, and 5 of them are tied to teacher practices. So that means, so if you add these features to your community, then it's highly likely that you're going to get positive results. Let's talk about implementation. I have 5 minutes, and then I can, wrap up, or you can just ask your questions. So this evidence is, of course, not ironclad. So there are lots of methodological issues. Even though I enthusiastically just say, okay, this is a good result, but sometimes we have unbiased findings, so we just need to be knowledgeable about that. But I really believe the power of PLCs. So if you design it, according to the research, it is really powerful. But people say it is in danger of losing its all the meaning. Because as I told you before, there are lots of similar structures. People say, okay, I'm doing PLC. In the United States, you hear from teachers say, okay, this is PLC. We have PLC. But in the PLC, they are talking about school stuff. Okay, if you want to buy like an experimental kit, should we enroll this thing, or should we buy this technology? But you need to focus on, as you see, students, their achievement, instruction. So most of the time, we just need to strengthen the design of these PLC studies in terms of, collecting data. As I told before, there are lots of self-reports. But this class, Piantas, very popular, high-profile, well-respected study, the classroom assessment scoring system for K-12. We need to observe teachers in their own classroom if they're implementing what they learned in PD or PLC. But it is really expensive. You just need to create a project. You definitely need time. It's a big investment, not just time, money, just people. So you just need to do that, but at the same time, this is not something out of the people's effort. That's the one thing we need. So it's okay to say you just use class and observe teachers, but it's hard to organize it. Most of the time, as I said before, there's a poor alignment between, so as I say, so in PLC, they talk about project management, but in the classroom, there's no project management, but you are just, measuring if it is positive or negative. So for example, if you work, as I said, like technology, like PCK, pedagogical content knowledge in PLC, and you need to measure PCK in the classroom. So that's alignment is really important.